Hello there everyone, welcome back to Around the Grid. Today, let's see if we can actually record something without having a ton of problems, like yesterday, but we are back and we are going to continue where we left off. So currently, we are getting very close to getting to Canada. Paris is currently just a single point behind Verstappen, and although it is a bit of a cop-out, I did say last time that I might accept just a driver championship, but honestly, we are of course going to go for the constructors too. But I think we'll just make I guess, a poll, say, at the end of the season, if one is enough, if I need both, and then we'll decide if we'll continue on to the next team. But we are doing what we have been doing for a little while here, where we are powering through with just developing the car, and we are going to continue doing that. We're actually getting a front wing design done here, we're getting a suspension design done, but the big question is, are these actually upgrades? Because I don't remember, so we'll have to take a look at that once we actually have them unlocked. So once again, as is the norm, I just need a little bit of a second here to get myself realigned, refocused onto the save. It's been a couple of busy days, and the troubleshooting yesterday did not really make me not really help on my mental, if you will. If you're curious, basically for the Has Hard Challenge, I had an issue with a recording and spent a couple of hours trying to fix it. Didn't really work. We have a new front wing here design. Let's see how that one... Huh? So this one is a very interesting one. The front wing design is complete. Can I actually manufacture it? I can. But on the flip side, this is just such an interesting little bug that I'm going to quickly save the game here just in case we break something. Or honestly, we're just going to start it. Let us just change the deadline. And what exactly happens now? We still have the slot. So I'm wondering if I'm currently breaking the game. Let us see once we get to 11th of June if we, have a catastrophic crash. If we do, then I feel like it's worth to test this, because this is a weird one where we get an extended deadline on the day it's done. But it is an upgrade. This actually was a pretty decent upgrade, with the exception of a loss of high speed, but the dead air tolerance and the brake cooling is nice. So we're definitely going to go ahead and get this onto the car itself. I think that is going to be good. Probably. So with that in mind, let us just get directly into manufacturing. But I believe we are actually manufacturing some other front wings. Why are we doing that? Go ahead and just cancel that one, because I think we are going to be using this one for the foreseeable future, and we are going to get them done for Montreal or Canada. Do we have anything else that we want to design, or rather manufacture immediately? Suspension is coming on pretty soon, but I would assume this is not an upgrade. The rear wing, I would assume neither of those are upgrades, so I think we're free to just manufacture what we see fit and what we kind of need. So I'm thinking let's get another side pod and then probably another chassis. And that should keep us up to code, so to speak, on the parts. And how are we actually looking on the chassis design scene, if you will? Again, sorry, I am a little bit confused there. I've been jumping between. Just been a long day. In addition to, as I said, focusing on different saves do take a little bit out of me, but we'll try and recover now. So we'll do this again for the chassis. Focus a little bit on the cooling. Focus a little bit on the medium speed. Honestly, we don't need to focus the cooling. That's the thing. We are going to go all in on these two stats and try and lower the cooling, because it's already pretty high. Same here for brake cooling. We don't actually need dirty air tolerance either, so yeah, I don't know what I was planning here, but we definitely need to probably redesign the car a little bit with that in mind. Does that mean that this slot was supposed to be used for another front wing? Maybe. I'll have a look at that in 4 days. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused about where we're at, honestly. I guess I'm running too many saves, which makes sense, honestly, at this point. Driver development update, a point of control for Rick. At least it's better than nothing. And in terms of the training schedule here, where are we actually at? So we're going to be wary come Canada, no matter what we do. And as I mentioned in the quote-unquote other video, I do have a theory that car building might be linked to pit crew fatigue. But again, I'm going to be testing this. Hopefully have that out on Saturday. It's going to be the hope. So I'll try and keep car building somewhat following the other stats here, the aero challenge, if you will. And the other theory is that switching parts during race weekends might also have a bit of an effect on pit crew, in this case, tiredness. So it is just a theory for now, but I am gonna, as I said, on this weekend, sit down and test it, so we'll see what we actually end up with in terms of if it's realistic or not. But yeah, we'll be testing pit crews this weekend going forwards. Suspension design has been completed, and with that, I do want to have a look at if the front wing that we are making is one that we need, or if I'm being silly. So this is what we could make. This is actually a even bigger upgrade than the one that we're currently putting on, but it's just slightly. But it is undoubtedly an upgrade. And we could even go a little bit further and add some high-speed cornering ability. So I think this wouldn't be the worst thing to make, but honestly, again, the cornering ability that we have right now is pretty good to begin with. So let's just double check here. In the warehouse, this one gives 14, 14, 8. Yeah, the other one would definitely be an upgrade, but it would be a minor upgrade to the point where I think it's just from the expertise of making the part, if you will. So if we compare, does seem to be the case. It's just 2 gained here, 2 gained here. Yeah, we lose 4 less here. But generally, I don't think this is going to be worth it to focus that much into a front wing upgrade. So I think we're just going to go back to the suspension and have a look at where we're at in terms of the workshop. So we made 2 of them focusing on medium and top speed. So with another safety period coming relatively quick, 21 days, I'm wondering if we want to put that safety period into the suspension, because I'm feeling that wouldn't be a terrible idea. So I'm thinking we're going to do this again, where we kind of focus on these 3 stats, drag reduction, medium, and airflow front. And while it's going to have a little bit of a negative effect on brake cooling, we're getting some brake cooling back through the front wing that we're making. So I think this isn't the most terrible idea that we've ever had. And I am going to put on, well, I don't actually have any of this. I'm going to go ahead and rush this one. That way it will be done around the time that we get the safety period. But again, what is the best thing to use it on? It is probably the suspension there, because again, what we're lacking right now is medium and low speed cornering, so it's either suspension or front wing. So we're going to go ahead, just gamble this time on the suspension, because I'm pretty sure we put that first period into the front wing. So we'll do this, we'll rush it, we'll put that extra engineer on it, and we'll be okay with this. I think I'm finally caught up with my own plans from last time. Honestly, I probably should sit down and reacquaint myself with the safe before I record, so I might start doing that in the future. But yeah, it's not great that I am basically just a confused little munchkin whenever I fire up any of my saves. That's not great at all. Okay, warehouse-wise, we are looking decent right now. Do we need an underfloor? We do. Let's go ahead and get that manufactured, and that should be us basically up caught up on parts, which would be good. And we'll just go very easily here. Both cars, 5 races, going to pay out pretty well. We could gamble higher, but I think it's better to say that we're just going to make Q3 with both cars, which we probably will. But we'll also have to focus a little bit more on getting Rick into a position where he can actually score a decent chunk of points. So let's see how we do in Canada, but before that, let us also go ahead and put on the new upgrade, the front wings, for both cars. And do you want to see? I'm going to be testing if powertrains have an effect if we basically replace them before the race weekend like this, rather than during the race weekend. But I'll test that on its own. It's not something I'll be doing during this save. But I would think that might have an effect. So I'll be sitting down with that after I'm done recording today. But yeah, I think everything is sorted. Let's go to Canada and see if we can catch up to Red Bull. We have a fairly interesting top 3 here after quali. Russ Bottas pair. So this puts us in a good position here right now. But Paris having a chance against Verstappen. And also Leclerc, who is taking a penalty here. Unfortunately, Rick could not capitalize. He ended up in 13th, so the car needs either a little bit of work, or we might need to kidnap a better driver in the context of the game. So it is what it is. But it is nice to see Bottas on the front row, particularly since it is the team that we kind of raced. So that is good. We're going to have rain for this race towards the end, by the looks of things. That could make things fairly interesting. Looks like it's going to be Intis after lap 25. So we probably want a strategy where we can survive till lap 30 and still be fine. And interestingly enough, the mediums are probably going to be just about good enough to pull that off. So we're going to put both cars here on the mediums to start with. And worst case scenario, we might need to extend a little bit. But by the looks of things, as long as we reach lap 30 here, 25 is when it's expected to start raining, we should be a-okay. So that is kind of what we're going to be gambling on. We have been promoted, well, we're starting 3rd. Rick has been promoted, my bad. Almost got that the wrong way around. But this, hopefully, if we get the pistols right, it should give Rick a chance to at least jump a little bit higher up in the points. And hopefully the Red Bulls will not be able to just eat up everyone else here. That's going to be the main thing we'll look out for. So soft tires here should be advantageous to us. I think I also see some hards. So definitely not the worst setups here. So Magnussen on hards, Verstappen on hards, Norris on hards. And with the exception of Russell, we, I believe, are the only ones on the mediums. So this could be very, very interesting. And as we can see here, already Perez is attacking Bottas. So very, very good. Guess that overtake done on lap 1. Rick back down to 13th. Or maybe not. He's still fighting the Williams. So already looks like we might end up with a fairly good race here from the perspective of that we have already gotten some confidence, and that's going to boost our drivers' performance at least a little bit. So we'll keep on working Rick here further up, Leclerc down in 18th, Verstappen still in 5th, and hopefully here we can turn this into a very, very good weekend for us. Let's see where we're at once we get close to the rain, and if we can get both drivers further up the grid. We are getting increasingly closer here to the wet. Unfortunately, Rick here, I've tried a couple of times. We just haven't been able to detach the second battalion here, if you will. And as you can see, Russell is currently running with Verstappen. Bottas, the rest here are kind of running their own DRS train. And that has left Rick a little bit far behind, unfortunately. We just haven't been able to get rid of Norris, get rid of Magnussen. And that has made progress here really, really difficult. Now, Perez actually has a little bit of a gap out front, but it's not anything massive. And in terms of the rain gain here, 30 seconds equals 14 millimeters. I think we're just going to do one more lap. I think that is going to be the safe bet here, at least for Perez. For Rick, I'm tempted to just get him in now early, because he's running in a cluster with a lot of other cars. So we're going to gamble on pitting him on this lap, because he is a little bit further back. It is a very short pit lane. And a lot of cars, of course, decided to go with us. We are getting held up there by both Magnussen and Norris. So from that perspective, we should have gone for another lap. But Perez now should definitely pit for Inters, and we are going to get that done. But yeah, it's just very unfortunate that pit lane traffic mainly. I think we'll see an example of that here now. Nope, we're safe. But the fact that Verstappen pitted and came out that much, caught up that much in the pits themselves is worrisome. Rick here is in 14th, so didn't really work out. We should probably have stayed out for another lap. But we'll see what we can do here. Hopefully getting back up into the points. So currently Verstappen has overtaken us, and I think what we're going to do here is stay on these inters until the end. It is probably going to be the best choice. We're still working with Rick here. He's up into 10th, but should be able to get 9th, and maybe even Gasly and Alonso here, potentially. But Verstappen here is going to be a bit of a danger, and I'm a little bit unsure if we're going to launch attack just yet, or if we just want to stay within a second. But we do have the capacity to attack, so I think we're just going to push, try and get by him here, and hopefully he'll slow a little bit down. For Rick, we have kind of recharged everything, so I'm thinking we're going to launch an attack here, and just keep on working on getting ourselves both cars, that is, further upwards.
The opportunity begging to be taken.
First, they're getting a very, very good move done. And we have Rick basically doing the same, but these tires go up to 105 degrees, so we're still far away from overheating them, which makes this race fairly mundane, if you look at it from that perspective. But we have gotten a little bit away from Verstappen. I'm going to allow Perez to now run a little bit on attack, and we'll see if we can extend this gap, or at least keep it at a second or two. And of course, we're going to keep on working Rick forwards, and hopefully we can maybe at least get up to 7th, but maybe even higher by the end of this race. So Perez wins. We are currently trying to get Rick up into 7th. We just didn't, which basically just been very, very stuck here, and it hasn't really worked out for us, unfortunately. A little bit extra fuel here, but let's face it, 100 grams is not a lot to really push on. But 8th is 8. Leclerc is in 10th, Verstappen is in 2nd. We are gaining on Red Bull, although it's mainly due to the penalty that Leclerc took here. It is what it is. Unfortunately, we couldn't do any better than this, but we'll take it. Red Bull 2nd and 10th. Ferrari's 3rd and 4th, and Merc in 5th. Bottas and Alonso 6th and 7th, and Gasly scoring points for Alpine. Drivers' Championship then, we do get the lead. 5 points down to Verstappen. Rick here climbs, well, doesn't really climb, but keeps the gap to Lewis somehow. Lewis does gain on him, to be fair. But that is kind of okay. Gain 9 points here. If we can keep that going until the rest of the end of the season, we'd catch Red Bull, but as I said, that's going to be difficult. Hopefully we can get an upgrade or two. That'll actually put us into a good position here. And I had a little bit of a mind fart there for a second. I thought that this wasn't the pit stop championship of the constructors, and I got very, very concerned. But yeah, it is what it is. We have outgoing here. We failed the qualifying position streak because, well, we failed it. Didn't get both drivers into Q3. And while that sucks, it is just what we're going to have to live with. Both side posts failing is not great, but we have 11 days until we go to Austria, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Do you want to see this rear wing though? And if it's anything that we want to manufacture, I would guess this is an upgrade wing that I've been making, and it does look like it's an upgrade wing focused on cornering. And let's have a look here, because again, if we focus cornering, we might be able to make something happen. So I'm wondering if the rear wing here is actually what I wanted to invest in, but I am uncertain. I really should start making notes for the different saves so I know that what's going on, because not knowing isn't great. But I think what we're going to do here, because usually I neglect downforce on the rear wing a lot, so I think what we're going to do here is just leave the rear wing slot open and invest into the rear wing. I am currently considering doing it for the suspension, we are rushing that project, which means that it's basically now wasted money. But even then, I think it's fine, honestly. In terms of the underfloor here, do we want to make some small changes? This will be a nice little upgrade, but again, that's all that it is, a little upgrade. I think we're just going to leave the underfloor as it is for now. The only other thing that we could work on would be the front wing here. But the airflow front being 82% means that we're already basically getting close at least to the cap. So I'm considering if we should use the slot here to actually develop a little bit of, do a little bit of research for next year in case we fail. Which sounds, you know, kind of bad when you know, framed like that. But I think it would be a good idea to do at least a research project or two. So for now, we'll just keep one slot for research, maybe. It's either that or we go all in. I think you know, we're going to go all in. And we're going to turn this Alpha Tauri into a proper shitbox next season as a result. So, what do we want to invest in? The best thing it would be to do another rearing project. But if we're going to do CFD in 2 weeks... that does limit how long we can get that done, but we could do a rush project with 6 engineers. It's going to be very, very minor expertise gained, but it is going to be expertise. And again, if we're min-maxing, let's just min-max maximally. That makes sense. So let's do it like this. We'll focus the next CFD period into the rear wing, the cornering ability of the rear wing mainly. And if the cost cap gets broken, the cost cap gets broken. I think that is going to be the philosophy here. Luckily, we have enough side pods to actually get through, but we're going to have to manufacture them once we have capability, which would be tomorrow by the looks of things. There we are. Let's go ahead and get at least one side pod project running, so we have something to spare. And all of these designs are actually finishing within 3 days of each other, so we will sort that out in a couple of weeks once we're done with Austria. Suspension in low stock. I think everything is in low stock, to be honest, so that shouldn't come as a surprise. Suspension is kind of in low stock, but we are making upgraded suspensions, so don't think it really matters. We probably going to manufacture not the one that I'm currently making, but the one after that. So it's a really, really weird scenario currently where I don't really know what I want to manufacture. So I think we'll just make a suspension and then we have a good stock of spares if we need to. Which isn't really a good reason to manufacture something, in all honesty, because it's expensive. But it does build a little bit of stockpile in case we have very, very bad situations happening, if you will. Sidepod has been manufactured, and we'll just go ahead and manufacture another one. Money is getting a little bit tight because of, well, the failure of the guarantee, for one. And I don't think we need to manufacture anything now that that rear wing is done. It should be fine. I am curious about where our pit crew is currently at. They're well rested at 9%, so nothing too bad. This should be a good weekend then. And I'm just going to go ahead and be very, very brave here and say one driver, top 5. And that's just going to be what we go with, I think. We are still going to try and get both drivers into Q3, of course, but Rick has been... he's not been getting there, let's put it like that, unfortunately. But with that said, let's jump into the next Austrian GP. I think I mentioned this before, but I just want to show you exactly how close quality can be and why most of the time Rick pulls the short straw. Now, the Red Bulls are an outlier, like usual, but if we take Alonso to Bottas, within 2/10 we have 3rd to 10th place. So in this case, 8 of the cars through to Q3 are within 2/10 of each other. So any minor slowdown would be disastrous here, and even a 10th down would put Rick 2 places down. And if you have a look here at the difference between Rick and 12th, that's 400s. There's 400s difference between 5 places and being in or being out. So all in all, this is actually a really competitive field, and I am kind of happy with that because it makes it more fun to run races. But on the flip side, it does put more pressure on Rick in this case to really perform. But it makes it more fun. He did get 7th in Q2. Let's see if he can pull something better than that out of the hat for Q3. And if he can, this race weekend is looking really promising. Unfortunately, quali here didn't actually go our way. From Paris to second place, again, just a couple of 10s, but it does give us a hard job come Saturday for the sprint, Sunday for the race, and Rick here also was a little bit unfortunate on his final run. If you have a look here, Sector 1, Sector 2, both green, and then Sector 3, a good second slower than on his earlier time here, and this one as well. So what happened here was that Sainz actually screwed him over. That's the best way I can describe it. Sainz had done a lap a little bit earlier. It's basically me sending him out of a bad window. But Sainz got slowed down by all the other cars going past, and he ended up pitting at the same time as Rick came around the corner. And basically that means Rick is going to get held up no matter what. And if he had put in an 18.1 or 18.2 even, 1.1 second quicker would be maybe a slight improvement, but honestly nothing too much. He could potentially have started a little bit higher, and I believe Paris kind of had the same issue, somewhat in Sector 1. Nah. No, that was in Q2. But yeah, it's the best we can do. Unfortunately, the car does need a little bit of extra oomph, which hopefully that rear wing that we're thinking about is going to give us, because we're definitely going to need a little bit extra power up. So worst case scenario, we might end up saving up a little bit of money here and replacing Danny with someone else to make it viable to win both championships this year. We'll have to see. It's gonna be rough no matter which choice we take, and I am gonna be looking into after this race, because it is a sprint weekend, how much fatigue the pit crew has gained from switching paths back and forth between practice session, between quali, between practice again, then the sprint. So looking forward to seeing if that actually has an effect or not. But for now, we'll get set up for the sprint, and then we'll hopefully climb a little bit further up the order there. So I'll get that prepped, and we'll see how we do. So due to the fact that we don't have any hards available to us, the sprint here is going to be probably a little bit of a nightmare, in all honesty. We can't run attack. We're probably going to have to run standard, like you see on Paris here. And as a result, we are going to be probably suffering. It's going to be hard to get overtakes done because we can't go with an aggressive strategy. And that is going to hurt us a little bit here, and potentially give Red Bull back the edge, or the 9 points we gained last time around, which wouldn't be great. They are starting both front row, so yeah, this is going to be a little bit rough. We're just going to have to try and manage the tires as good as we can, and then work from there. At least we seem to be holding position. Yep, looks like we're holding position. Maybe not for Rick there. Looks like Magnus then wanted to send it up the inside. But Rick has held on. But the goal here is just going to be to, again, try and gain a little bit of position for our drivers, and hopefully not lose anything before the big race on Sunday. So we'll keep on managing, and we'll see where we're at once we get a little bit further into this. And we have a VSC, Ferrari off the track. And that is going to help us a little bit, but that is actually Sainz who's running ahead of Paris, so... No, that's Russell. I thought it was Sainz there for a second, because we were suddenly rid of a Ferrari. Ooh, that is a really bad hit, in all honesty. But yeah, Perez had a good time. Rick's not had as good of a time. He keeps on falling backwards. He just isn't able to keep up with standard running on the tires, which is unfortunate, but not too surprising, I guess I could say. And the reality of the situation is that most likely Perez is going to end up in 5th, maybe 5th or 6th, and Rick is not going to get any points out of this sprint. But we'll keep on fighting. We'll see what we end up with, and hopefully we can get an upgrade going soon. Final lap of the sprint, Rick is down into 12th. Honestly, just couldn't deal with it. I should have gone attack a little bit earlier, but at least we got Perez up into 4th here, and Hamilton did overtake Leclerc. So Mercedes are helping us a little bit with minimizing the damage done. But yeah, the stats are talking for themselves. We might really need to save some money to replace him, which is unfortunate because he is a driver that kind of root for. So while it is unfortunate, it's not unexpected, I guess you could say. Now in terms of strategy here, I think this is what we'll go for, which is medium, hard, medium. I think that is the best bet. And it should be probably one of the fastest strategies that we have available to us. It's either this or we go for another soft stint, for instance. But I think this is good enough. And if we need to make any changes, we can. But for Rick here, I am also considering changing him over to a 4-stopper and just go all in. So that we start him on the soft. Then we go over to the hard. We go full attack on that. We go onto a medium. Then we go onto a soft at the end. Or another medium, even, if we need to. But I think that would be the most aggressive strategy that we can make. That would take advantage of his starting position, which is honestly pretty far back. It is just about the same in terms of pace as this one. But the main idea by pitting early within the first 15 laps here is going to be that, well, we pit early so that we can run in free air on the hard. And hopefully that'll work. Basically means that we put them on different strategies, but I think it's going to be worth it. For Perez here, this is probably the best bet, although stretching this first stint would maybe benefit us. But doing 20 laps on the medium should be good enough that the gaps will be there to kind of work with. That is my hope, at least.
The ready, the cars are ready. It's the Austrian Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Lights out and away we go indeed. So Perez is currently fighting Alonso. Rick's already made up a place, potentially, on show, which would be nice. Alonso kind of attacking us. Can we get him back into the corner? Yes, we can. So, an okay start, but the fight isn't over. And Rick here running kind of by his lonesome right now. And Alonso did get us there, although that was potentially a very brave attempt at getting back at him. So for now, we're going to settle into our usual pattern of just working through this first stint where everyone is kind of more aggressive. And we're going to be working really harder to get Rick up as high as we can. Pit stops here are fairly lengthy. So that is mainly why pitting 3 times will probably not be the best strategy you've ever done. But for Rick here, we're going to do it in an attempt to try and get overtakes by pitting. So hopefully it'll work out to our advantage. Right now, Rick is making overtakes. And Perez actually made his way up into 3rd while I wasn't paying attention. So let's have a look at that.
Now this is Sergio Perez. The opportunity's there.
I assume we got Alonso with DRS. And then we just get Hamilton into corner, which is good. But Hamilton is coming back. And that is one of the main things with this track. Because of the DRS zones, which there are 3 of, it's very easy to come back at a driver that overtakes you unless you are way quicker. Which is why we want to kind of create an imbalance in terms of tires. Which is the goal here with Rick by pitting him early. So that he has hopefully a tire advantage for anyone he runs into. And that's kind of the idea with Perez too, so that they can actually pull away from the DRS zones. But we'll see if that works or not. Hopefully we can pull that off. And Paris here is pushing, but the DRS train behind is kind of keeping up with him, so it's going to be rough. As you can see, we've had a bit of a moment. Paris in the wall, alongside Hamilton. Paris and Hamilton here. Rick's coming up on the corner, so we might see him join them as well. Paris was recharging, but I don't actually know what happened yet. And luckily enough, I think... yeah, just the front wing died. Looked like we didn't have any real damage. Powertrain is luckily fine. So we're just going to have to deal with this. And just try and make the best out of this, you know, bad situation. We'll pit for hard, we'll go mediums, and we're probably going to go 2 pit stops here very aggressively. I don't think we have any other choice at this point. And you can see Paris falling down.
Now the Alpha Tauri involved here. Tries to get
What
by,
exactly happened?
and there the cars make.
Guess Paris did the same he did in Abu Dhabi, maybe? I think we might be eating a penalty here, unfortunately. We'll see. No, Hamilton ate the penalty. Lucky for us, but that's still frustrating. I think I did set up a pit stop, didn't I? Yep, we did. So, no need to switch that up. Let's see if Paris does pit. He does. Looks like Hamilton's wing survived, which is more than you can say for our car, which is extra frustrating, but at least Paris now has a lot of free air. And hopefully can make his way back up. Now we are going to be pitting Rick this lap too. But considering where we're at, with Paris being the main main breadwinner, this isn't necessarily a good thing that he's now currently kind of struggling, if you will. I don't know why Rick slows down that much there. He's done that several times where he just completely falls off. And it's very, very frustrating to watch, I'll be honest. But now he does have some free air, and it won't be too long here until the rest of the grid will start pitting too. So we need to get these hards up to temperature, we need to push. But you can see here with a 20-second gap between 16 seconds between Paris and Rick, Paris is going to have a really, really hard time getting back into the points here. And yeah, this is going to be rough for sure. We'll see what we can do though. And I think I actually messed up the qualifying, I just realized, so we might be paying another penalty after this race, a pretty bad one. But at least Rick is jumping some of these cars. Paris can maybe catch up later, but this is definitely going to be a really, really rough race. So we'll speed things along, and then we'll see where we're at once we get to the first pit stop. But Rick is definitely not going full throttle, I feel like, most of the time, because he just gets so stuck behind other cars so often. But we'll keep on going, and we'll see where we're at once we get closer to the end of the race. A lot of the cars have pitted, but as you can see, we're currently up to Sainz. And at least 5. Basically, a lot of cars in front of us still need to pit. But I don't think we have too many chances of jumping cars, unfortunately, at this stage. So I'll keep on working Rick, I'll keep on working Paris, and we'll see where we're at the next pit stop.
Safety car.
We have a virtual safety car. I don't know what exactly has happened. At least both of our cars are still running.
Oh dear, a crash. There's been a crash.
Albon has crashed. Okay.
Now Alex Albon is part of this. And ends up making contact with the barrier.
That's not great. But I think this gives us an opportunity to kind of try something a little bit different in terms of strategy. So if we go for mediums, and I know that we have another set of mediums, we could go medium at this point, which honestly probably would be the better choice. Time is kind of still the same, but pitting under the VSC, pretty sure it does take that into account. And that is a good 7 seconds saved around this track. So we're actually going to pit both cars, and we're going to get them onto a medium tire. Now, Paris doesn't actually have a medium tire, but what I'm thinking that we're going to have to do here is just put him on the medium. And then we're going to do the good old trick where we convert a medium to a hard tire. I think that is the best we can kind of do here. and we'll just have to deal with as we can. We're really limited on options here, so we'll have to try and take every opportunity that is given to us. We're getting increasingly closer to the final pit stop. Rick is still running fairly high up in 6th. But ahead of him, basically every car has done their final pit stops. And we have Bottas and Norris here on softs. They'll actually go on those till the end, which is going to make things kind of interesting. As you can see, we estimate to come out in 14th. And for Paris, who doesn't actually have a proper tire to use here, we are going to have to just use a soft tire. And as you can see, out of interest here, running them on light is better than running them on standard. We can run aggressive, and honestly, I think that is just going to be what we do here from the get-go. We're going to run this soft tire on aggressive as soon as we used all of this medium tire. So 1 or 2 more laps here now for Paris is what I'm thinking. And at least we've had some really good stops here where they haven't actually been pit stop errors. And Rick actually comes out in 12th with a lot of free air to start hunting down these cars in front. And I think we're just going to go ahead here and get Perez in. I don't think there's anything inherently bad about doing that. Should come out ahead of Magnussen, which is going to be the big one. And as long as we do that and get a lot of free air, we couldn't do that. And we actually slowed down extra there. That's unfortunate, but that gives Perez a little bit of work now with Rick in 11th. So we'll keep on working. But this race has definitely not worked out in our favor in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully we can salvage at least a couple of points. But right now it looks like Red Bulls here have pretty much 1-2 secured, and that's gonna sting pretty badly in the championship.
Keep pushing.
To make matters worse here now, Rick has had a bit of a lockup, and he's decided to park and take in the views. And he's now down behind Paris. So yeah, I think we might need to just force a driver change here if we want to have any chance of winning both championships this year. And Paris is actually really, really slow, but that can really just be attributed to the fact that he does have chassis damage that is not helping him at all. But with 5 laps to go and basically a good 6 seconds up to the points, I think unfortunately at Australia we're going to be walking away from the race at least pointless. But we can of course go full attack now, and we're going to push a little bit of fuel. But honestly, I think we are really, yeah, with the slowing there as well. We're not really going to get anything out of this race, unfortunately, but I'll try and get something done, and we'll see where we end up. We tried everything we could, but it was unfortunately not good enough. 11th and 14th here, which is very disappointing after the sprint, but it is what it is. It is going to put us into an incredibly bad position, though. As you can see, Verstappen gained 28 points there in the fight. And in the championship total, 52 points gained for Red Bull. So while we had a little bit of hope after the last race, that has been thoroughly smashed. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. But of course, Paris getting taken out really threw a monkey wrench into our plans. And as I said, we failed the qualifying position streak immediately. So yeah, the car is good, but the thing here is that everyone else has a car that is just as good. So driver-wise here, as I said, we might be looking into seriously replacing Danny Rick. And there's nothing too bad about it. It's just the fact that we need to, with how competitive things are. And the 2 options here, Stroll versus Show. And I think Stroll would be the better option. I think he has better pace stats than Show, if I'm not mistaken. And the control stat here is actually kind of fun to look at as well. 91, 89, 82. Show has better balance, but Stroll has better braking. I think Stroll would be the best option. But I need to know how much it would be in a buyout. So yeah, as you can see it, 13 million. At the very least, 14 million to buy him out. So we need to save up a little bit of money, which is difficult when we constantly break past. We have at least ATR starting today. And we have some engineer and driver tension here between Rick and Speedy. We're going to try and intervene, see if we can solve that. But yeah, this is kind of exhausting, honestly. The back-to-back days with some bad luck. But it's what makes this game interesting. And honestly, I'll probably take a little bit of a break before I record the second half of this episode, but that should be fine. Probably come back in a bit of a better mood. But so far, I'm thinking that we are going to go ahead and have a look here. We're going to get a sidepod and suspension design done before the British GP. So I'm going to keep the manufacturing slots open for now. Although getting a chassis underway is probably a good idea, so let's do that. And let us move ahead here. Engineer drive tension, it goes solved immediately. Very, very good. And the sidepod design is completed. I think this is when we want to actually make a new sidepod design, one that it actually is competitive, unless I already did. This one is slightly competitive, where we sacrifice some engine cooling. So this is actually the one that I wanted, I believe. So good upgrade, I think. But yeah, sacrificing engine cooling here to get things going is probably the best bet that we can do. Because we don't need a tremendous amount of engine cooling. Getting that top speed boost would definitely help us more, and even that isn't enough to catch up to the front of the grid. And as you can see, they've developed their cars, so our car isn't even that good anymore. I'm actually genuinely worried at this point that we might not even get the driver championship if this keeps on going as it has been. So yeah, bit concerning for sure. Do also want to manufacture the sidepods before I forget, because we can actually use these. Let's just get two of them made first. And the main thing here is because we need money for new parts, we can't really replace Danny Rick, and because also I made mistakes that cost us basically 2 million in terms of promises to the sponsors. This is not a good position to be in at the current stage. We do this. I don't think this is worth 5% of brake cooling. That's the problem. But I think we're going to have to make this design and just make a couple of versions of this in order to boost stats. I think that's going to be the key. Okay, Speeney's contract is ending. Hamelin's, Hauger's. I guess we're going to have to renegotiate those, but for now, it's not a big deal. But let's try and make a guarantee here that is somewhat agreeable with us. One driver, top 15, both of them. Let's do this. It's very, very careful, but it should be nearly guaranteed to be doable. Let's say just one driver in the points, and honestly, at this point, we need to just play a little bit safer. So we'll do both drivers in Q2, both drivers into Q3. And while it's not, again, great doing it like that, I don't think we have any choice at this matter. Because as we saw, the other cars have been upgraded a little bit now to the point where our high speed, medium speed, and low speed isn't that great compared to the rest. And we even have the lowest amount of brake cooling at 73%. So, yeah, the other team's cars might have a bit of an advantage now. And even with the driver advantage to add to that, with 88% engine cooling, we might be in a tad bit of trouble here. So I think, unfortunately, Danny, I need you to perform really, really good for the next few races. And the salary here is a bit of a problem. But we could have a very, very interesting scenario to test out here too next season. If we don't succeed, where we could see that if we don't do any research, can you win? Can you win the following season with no research on the big regulation change? Which might actually be what the second season at Alpha Tauri might turn into. So it's a gamble, of course, but it's a gamble that I've decided to do, and we'll be heading into the British Grand Prix. But I'll just take a short break, so just keep that in mind when I'm probably going to come back a lot jollier going into the next race. We are ready for the British GP. Qualifying has completed, and once again, we only managed to get one driver into Q3. Rick actually ended up 11th. He's starting 9th due to penalties of 2 drivers. Same with Perez. He qualified 5th, starting 3rd. So I'm really looking forward to getting that upgrade going. But I think we're just going to focus development here because I think we can do something a little bit more fun and interesting next season anyways. Can we survive no development on a regulation season? Because this is the big one. Next season, it's going to be pretty fresh. So I want to see if we can pull the rabbit out of the hat and basically have some good performance next season. It would be kind of interesting if we did, I feel. But with that said, we're going to be setting up a strategy for this race, and we're probably going to go with a somewhat aggressive 2-stopper, like we usually do. I think that is the best bet around here, to be fair. 1-stopper here is potentially somewhat quick, but I think doing a 2-stopper will benefit us more in the long term. And Rick here is in 9th, and I think he'll actually struggle to not only remain in the points, but to have a good race here. The car that we have with him as a driver is unfortunately not a very good combo, as unfortunate as that is. So we'll see if we can make something done, get something done. But of course, as I've said, if we get a couple of upgrades, we might be able to catch up to Red Bull the last part of the season. I might be coping, but I think it would be fun if we could at least put some sort of challenge. We need a good showing here after all the misfortune that we've had for the last few races.
And the drivers are ready for this. The British Grand Prix. And it's lights out.
See if we can get a decent start here. That would go a long way to getting some happiness back into the system, if you will. And it looks like Perez is already launching a little bit of an attack there. Verstappen is coming back though, so might not be able to hold on to it. But at least we are being aggressive, and I do like to see that. Rick has retained 9th, but he's already half a tenth behind Tsunoda. That doesn't really look like half a tenth, does it? He is closing back down, and Perez has ended up kind of really nicely seated here in 3rd behind the Red Bulls, but we are definitely going to have to pull out the win out of the hat, I do feel. So we're going to go ahead, standard strategy, we push for the first stint, try and make it places, but we'll be happy if we can remain where we are, and we'll see where we're at once we get close to that first pit stop. So let's see how this race develops, and if we can end up on the podium, and hopefully end up ahead of the Red Bulls. We're getting very close to the pit stops here. So far, it's gone fairly well. Perez did manage to eke out a little bit of gap between Verstappen and Leclerc, but unfortunately that gap has been going down. It was 3 seconds at its highest. Rick has done a good job of moving forwards here. At least he's in reaching, well, he's in close range of 4th, which is great. And we are getting basically to a point now where we do want to pit here. So I think we're going to go ahead and pit earlier before the Red Bulls do. To be fair, though, it's nothing bad really about stretching these tires for another lap or two. That will probably be beneficial because we are a good 22 seconds ahead of 19th. 20th has pitted, which is why they're so far behind. And with 22-second pit stops here, we're basically going to be inside of them. So unless basically there's no need to pit early because we'll have to deal with these DRS trains. And as such, going for another lap before we pit is probably advisable for Perez. Although I should have pitted Rick this lap, in all honesty, because he has a little bit more of a gap here. He would have a lot better space to work with, which would definitely benefit him more than Perez. But for Perez, as I said, we're just staying out so that we might be able to jump, as you can see, a Schumacher, maybe Albon, Norris, and Gio. That would be really good if we could. So that is why we're having Perez run a couple of extra laps here. Because he isn't really losing anything to the Red Bulls, and if we can jump a few cars in the pits, that would be really nice here. Rick with, as I said, decent pit stop, and he has a lot of free air now because of the way that we ended up taking that pit stop, which is kind of what we were looking for. We are going to pit Paris now because as soon as these tires dip below 30%, they're going to really, really suffer. So if we can hopefully get out ahead of Albon, that would be really, really nice. And looks like we are probably going to be able to get Norris here even, as the rest of the field ends up pitting. And that is going to end up with giving us a lot of free space here. For Paris, he shouldn't have too high confidence. Well, he actually has peak confidence, same with Rick. So, yeah, I don't know why it's peak. But as you can see here, the other cars are pitting, they're getting out of the way. And this is kind of working as I hoped with this two-stop strategy, where we can jump a lot of the car, gain a lot of time, and not have anyone DRS off of us. So until we get to the final pit stop, let's see how high we can get. And everyone ahead of us here are going to have to pit very, very soon. Paris and potentially Rick here might be able to jump most of them, except for the Red Bulls. So we could see Rick here jumping up into 4th. After these pit stops, Paris will definitely be up in the lead. So currently we have a bit of an interesting scenario playing out. You can see Rick is up in 2nd, Verstappen now in 12th, and Leclerc in 3rd. Both Red Bulls had pit stop errors, which really, really slowed them down. And with this, Rick can actually take advantage of that by getting, hopefully, a tow from Leclerc for the entirety of this stint. They will most likely be on these hards till the end, so any gap that we form right now is going to be incredibly valuable. And right now, the gap Paris holds is that he would come out in probably 4th, if we can just eke out a little bit more advantage here. Looks like it is doable. So by the end of this hard stint, we can hope for coming out in either 5th or 4th. Basically around this area, which should make give us far fewer overtakes, which would be nice. But unfortunately, it looks like Rick is having a hard time staying with Leclerc. Just gonna use energy here. Try our best to stay within DRS distance, and if we can do that for Rick, that would actually be quite amazing. So let's see here if we can actually have a really, really good race for once. We're getting increasingly closer to that final pit stop, and as you can see, Magnussen, Gasly, a few other cars are actually pitting now for soft tires mainly. And what I'm thinking that we can do here is actually pit Rick at this stage, because the soft tire around this place is actually a good 5/10 quicker than a medium, 8/10 quicker than a fresh hard, and will hold advantage over these tires for basically a little bit over 10 laps. So with 15 laps to go, it is definitely the time to get Rick onto the medium tire. Sorry, not the medium, the soft tire. And he will be holding a pretty significant pace advantage. As you can see, 1.8 seconds quicker as a base. So even if it's just 10 laps, it should be more than enough that we'll make up the time and still have a little bit extra to gain here, because we can push these tires even more aggressively, because we've gone 3 laps further, technically 4 here, than we expected. However, Rick is going to have a little bit of an issue here. He is 12 seconds behind us. 22 seconds for our pit stops puts us down between Hamilton and Tsunoda. So he's going to have some overtaking to do, unfortunately. And Perez here, with Magnussen pitting here, with Rick pitting, he'll only have Bottas and Leclerc to deal with. So I think what we're going to do here is actually get Perez in 2 at this lap. Because again, I think that is the best bet. And although that estimate we're going to come out in 10th, I don't believe that. So let's see how this goes. Unless, of course, it predicts a pit stop error, in which case we might very well end up coming out 10th. But we're going to gamble on it being fine here. And that is really all we can hope for. So let's see if the race that has been pretty good so far is going to get ruined by a couple of bad pit stops, or if we're going to actually end up having a bit of a good time. So Leclerc is running down the main straight right now. Perez pit stops goes very well. Rick's pit stop, how does that go? Yellow flag, that could be nasty. Looks like that went well too. Perez out in 2nd ahead of Bottas, and Rick here does come out in 11th, but does have a little bit of a charge ahead of him now. 23 seconds behind the lead, behind Leclerc, but just 14 seconds behind on a podium. And Stroll here should have to pit very, very soon. So this could definitely work in our favor. And as you can see, running full attack isn't really viable. So we'll turn it to aggressive, and then we'll run it full attack as we get closer to the end of the race. But I think already we are going to see, we're actually going to go ahead and push already with Perez. And we're not going to do that with Rick this time around, because Rick is probably going to end up snatching the point and cursing me if I do. It has been kind of a running theme so far. Magnus says fastest lap. He did pit the lap before we did.
Reminder on the battery.
And we are going to allow Rick here to just use energy to try and get by and move his way through these cars in front as quickly and efficiently as he possibly can. And Perez is closing down on the car in front by quite a large margin here. 2.5 seconds on that last lap. And for Rick here, he is a second slower than Perez, but that's mainly due to the fact that we didn't push fully, but also the fact that he is in traffic. But even then, he is significantly quicker than Leclerc. And as he gets more of these cars out of the way, with the help of DRS for one, with the help of energy if he can't pull it off, I think we'll see him maybe potentially here end up catching Leclerc as well. But Ocon being a bit stubborn, hard to overtake, is actually a bit problematic right now. So let's just go full on attack and see if we can get the move done. The main concern I have now, though, is that he might actually just come back at us on the straight here, but looks like we are fine. Paris is also soon catching Leclerc, but we're going to keep on climbing with these cars, and hopefully, as I said, we can get Rick here at least back up on the podium. That would be really, really good. For Paris, the key now is going to be to actually just slow down a little bit, because we still have him on full attack. I want him to recharge and just cleanly pull away from Leclerc. The fact that we're behind Leclerc right now is not actually a bad thing, because it gives the longer we are behind, the more of a chance we actually end up giving Rick. The cleaner the escape here, the better for Ricciardo. So we're just gonna go ahead now, push full on, and again, if we can pull him out of the RSA before this DRS zone, probably saves Rick a few tenths at the very least. So nothing too massive, but nothing to really scoff at either. We're gonna go ahead and harvest a little bit here while we chase down the rest of the cars. And I think within the next couple laps here, we can go full attack. So podium definitely on the table for him. We'll just have to see if he has enough here to catch Leclerc too. But honestly, the traffic here might just be a tad too much to make that really, really viable. So if you want to make that happen, I think we're just going to go attack a little bit earlier. And I will be trying to work Rick up here. And since we're going to be ending it on this race, I think we'll just have a look at it in its entirety, because it is a good race, and it's been a while since we actually had one that I kind of enjoyed here. So Alonso and Verstappen ahead. That is a tough combination to try and pass, even if you have the better tire. But gets one. Is it going to go for the second one right away? Looks like it. Gets two. And now it is hunting down Bottas and Russell. So very, very nice there. And hunting down Bottas and Russell should be doable. Paris is currently still running 27.3s. We can assume Rick is going to run 27.5s, 27.6s maybe. And if he keeps on running that, he'd be gaining a good 3 seconds on the cars in front every lap. But if we get the safety car here, I'm going to be sad. Verstappen! That should just be a light touch, yeah. Nothing really major. Curious who's going to get a penalty, though. That's going to decide a little thing here. Or, you know, racing incident, no penalty. That could also be a verdict here. Let us see here now what Rick is doing in terms of lap pace. So yeah, 27.5s, kind of what we expected. And it is 2 seconds quicker than the cars in front. And it looks like we have had another incident involving Verstappen.
I'm not quite sure what's happened
Half a
there.
front wing is gone. Is it the same two cars? Yep. Oh, that is a double tap. That is damage on both cars. And Verstappen is slower, so he's probably going to end up outside of the points, which is a great boon for us. Alonso with a bit of a penalty. I don't think that's going to affect us in any way or shape, but it is, of course, unfortunate. But what I need now is a little bit of energy from Rick here. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to chase down Leclerc. He's just a little bit too far ahead. the delays here on the way forwards was just a little bit too harsh for us to really get anything done. And that has been a little bit problematic. But now, as long as Rick can get these two, he'll be on the podium at least, and I'll take that as a win. That is a really, really wide line there. Rather aggressive. I think we're gonna harvest a little bit here. Because we don't really have too much energy, but we are close enough that maybe going to deploy it is going to be the right choice. Problem is this little DRS train is actually quite rapid. So we're going to go ahead, turn up the overtake direction to high. And we might actually be running out of laps here. We're kind of stuck at the moment. I think we're just going to have to go harvest here. Pull down the tires a tad. And try and get the attack done on the final lap here. Because we still have one more lap after this. Paris is over there. We're going to need some energy here and everything to go full attack on the final lap. I think that's going to be the key, unfortunately. Go neutral here. I was hopeful, but maybe I was a little bit too hopeful, because we're also going to end up running out of time. We ran a little bit too aggressive here. Full attack, full deploy, last chance. See if you can make something out of it.
And we keep an eye on the tire temperatures. We will keep an eye on tire temperatures.
We have pushed Paris Science a little bit too much too, to be honest. Come on, Rick.
Perez
Yeah.
has crossed the line
Come on.
first.
Can you at least get one? Maybe? Oh, ran it a little bit too wide there.
That's available.
That's unfortunate, honestly. He made it across the line at least, though, before I ran out of fuel.
Checker flag, checker flag.
But, yeah, I thought we would just breeze by. But Russell and Bottas just had that DRS train under control. We used probably a little bit too much tire before we caught up to them. So that is a strategic error on my part, which cost us a good 5 points. But even then, I don't think we can be too upset here. It was a good race weekend. Verstappen here had fastest lap, but he ended up down in 18th because of the incident with Alonso. So that did save this weekend a little bit, in all honesty. But yeah, that puts us back into contention for World Championship title. Well, Drivers' Championship at least. And in the Constructors, we do gain a little bit here, I'll say, on the Red Bulls. But still, 100 points behind. We still have a lot of work ahead of us, for sure. And it was a good week in terms of the pit stops. They are slow, don't get me wrong. But we'll just have to deal with that. I once again gambled on Q3. We are just 1 or 2 places off Q3 usually, so getting just that one upgrade is actually going to be quite a big deal. Rear Wing and chassis now have been designed, so we'll have a look at both of these, see if they're upgrades. They should be, I would hope. And in terms of manufacturing here, how many days until next GP? 11 days. So we should be having enough time to make both. And this isn't the upgrade yet. We need one more rear wing design. I think. I would hope so. That's the only thing that makes sense with these gains, at least. Yep, does look like that. So I'm a little bit off again. It has been a very, very tiresome time at work. And I'm just going to quickly take a small pause here and see what I was actually thinking last time around, because I just can't remember right now, which is a bad thing. Might need to take a little bit of a break after recording this one. But I'll check and figure out exactly what I said in terms of what we're going to use CFD period on. Otherwise, I'm just going to probably second guess myself a lot here. So I've been reacquainted with my thought process, and I did rush the rear wing, so I assume that what I want to do was do the rear wing. So we're going to go ahead and invest into that idea. We're going to use safety time. We have a lot of it, so it has a huge effect on the car. And we're going to go ahead and invest it into the rear wing. And that should hopefully give us a pretty sizable boost on cornering and, well, everything else here for that matter. We're of course going to get rid of the lifespan, the airflow sensitivity, and I'm kind of tempted to just make a one rear wing now for cornering and one rear wing for basically everything else. So this rear wing will actually be a pretty sizable gain, just because of what it offers us in not only DRS effectiveness, it's just 2% right now, but also the cornering itself. So let's be honest, we're using CFD time on this one, so we're going to have to make another one afterwards anyways. So what we could do is say specialize this one for just pure cornering or just pure speed. But pure cornering here wouldn't be a horrible idea either. You don't gain a lot though from sacrificing the DRS, I feel. So I think we'll do this and then just make another one like this. So we'll make a couple of rear wings just in the meantime. And we're just going to go ahead and get it done as quickly as possible. 19 days. So we'll have it done right after Spa, which sucks because it would be nice to have it before that. But if we then have basically 10 races after Spa, and if we manage to do not really 1-2s, but at least 1-3, 1-4, 1-5 like we did here, we might still have a little bit of a chance of getting Red Bull. But this is also going to strain the financials, so we're going to go all in on two things. We're going to go all in on designing the car, so only designs this year. We'll deal with the loss next year if we need to. Might just, again, pull that aside, make it a different thing. But I do feel like that is the only choice that we have right now. I have put myself into a pretty bad corner. I'm not going to lie. But it's a corner that I'm willing to, you know, be stuck into at the moment. So this chassis 2 is just a top speed one with a little bit of loss in cornering. So I think the next one is going to be the upgrade then. And then I'm finally back to where I was supposed to be. Well, basically then I'm back to following. We're getting a little bit of stats here, nothing too, you know, insane. But as I said, because every car is so close, every little stat does actually help quite a lot. So this will be the next chassis design, and it's probably going to be the chassis that we'll use. But no matter if we rush this one, we're not going to be able to get it in time for Spa. So we'll just do 30 days regular time. And we should still have just about enough time then to manufacture 2 of them before Sandvoort. So, yeah, looks like I'm doing some pretty weird stuff, honestly, because I can't follow it. And as I did mention earlier, I really should start once I take a little bit of a break between videos to just write down what have I done and why have I done it. Because at this point, with all the sales, with all the one-shot projects, two-shot projects, I'm getting a little bit confused myself of what my thought process is, and that is bad because there is reason behind it, but the reason differs from save to save on what I'm doing. So that does throw a pretty large monkey wrench into the planning. Let's just put it like that. So for now, we'll just swap out the car parts here. The underfloor, we are going to go ahead and manufacture 2 more. And for the suspension, we are going to have to manufacture one at a time. It's going to be 3 days. But for now, I think we're going to go ahead and end it here. It's been a pretty long session. I have also been messing around a little bit with the second part of the McLaren. 2-shot challenge now. So that should hopefully be out sometime tomorrow. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed this, even though I've probably been pretty scatterbrained. I do have a way shorter workday tomorrow, so hopefully the McLaren episode, which still have a couple of parts to record, will be a little bit more clarity and less muddy mind, if you will. So hope you still enjoyed. Apologies for being so scatterbrained, and hopefully I'll see you around next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.